So, guys, I want to talk about something really difficult. Is that, I've mentioned before that, I've gone to every AEW pay per view from September 2023, like, the All Out show when CM Punk, after CM Punk left the company, all the way until World's End a few weeks ago in Orlando, Florida. And, it was definitely a really great journey, like over a year of going to all the shows. But I'm actually thinking about not going to the AEW pay-per-view shows for a couple of reasons. That I really felt that the company is dropping in quality, and I really say that because what happened was that when I was at the World's End show, I was like really mad about how they choreographed, the Fatal 4-Way match. Like, honestly, they disappeared in the crowd and most people couldn't see what was going on and stuff like that. When you see Anarchy in the arena, you have like, 4 cameras and they do a lot of great coverage. So there was something in my head that was like, man, it really feels like they're getting to a point where they're not really caring about their pay-per-views. Because one thing that AEW is known for is that every pay-per-view they do, it feels like you're going to a SummerSlam or a WrestleMania type show. Like, they really just give a shit about making it bigger and better, and like it really matters, unless it's a Ring of Honor pay-per-view, where a Ring of Honor pay-per-view almost feels like, an old school TNA pay-per-view where it has some quality, but not, better than a TV show, but not like, a like mega quality or whatever, really. So I am very kind of concerned about the direction of AEW and, how they're going to do their pay-per-views. And then, of course, also thought about the fact that, honestly, for Los Angeles Revolution, I'm very worried because you have AEW Grand Slam, and I believe that's supposed to be a pay-per-view, but now there are stories online saying that it's changing from a pay-per-view to a special show, so maybe like a 3-hour show, or almost like the Grand Slam show or Maximum Carnage, where it is a television programming with really great matches. And there's also a worry about AW Grand Slam. It might have dream matches and it might not have a build, just like a Battle of the Belts type of show. So it's almost like, something that's pay-per-view caliber. A lot of people think it's going to be a pay-per-view is not really going to matter, and that's going to be annoying. That's going to give a lot of bad publicity. And then they're going to transition into the Revolution pay-per-view and act like that meant nothing, really. So something like your first pay-per-view of the year in Grand Slam, or a lot of people think that's the first pay-per-view you're not really going to care about. And then I'm also a little worried with Revolution, because if you do something like you put all the matches on Grand Slam and then you have Revolution 3 weeks later, that's not a lot of time to make a really great show. And I also think that there are some really good stories right now, but there are a lot of matches that, I wouldn't want to see. That I really want to see Max Caster versus Anthony Bowens. That'll be a great match. I want to see, obviously, Ricochet versus Swerve. Like, that should be a match saved for a Revolution pay-per-view. You can do Powerhouse Hobbs versus Big Cass, or Powerhouse Hobbs versus Claudio, or Powerhouse Hobbs versus Chris Jericho for the Ring of Honor title. That would be good for the Supercard of Honor show. Or they pay money to have Powerhouse Hobbs, like if they have the Death Riders pay money, or the Learning Trade pay money to Chris Jericho, to pay money to Bobby Lashley to take on Hobbs. That would be interesting. Or if you do, Will Ospreay and Kenny Omega versus Takeshi and Kyle Fletcher as a tag team match, that would be really good. Or if you do like the Hurt Syndicate, Lashley and Shelton versus Brian Cage and Lance Archer, that's going to be a really great match. There's a lot of really great matches, but it's kind of makes me wonder a lot about how you're going to spread them between both those shows. And, how are you going to, have a lot of positive momentum from Grand Slam into Revolution and have great matches? And are you going to do like a part 1, part 2? Are you going to be like Avengers Endgame? Are you going to do something where the first part, the Grand Slam show is going to be great, compelling, have great matches, and build up to the pay-per-view 3 weeks later, and then knock it out of the park, really? I really think that's the writings on the wall, that with the Suncorp Arena not working out of the 50,000 seat arena, they're going to just have a special show, the 10,000 seat arena. It's going to feel like a Battle of the Belts, or like, a show that they're trying to make feel like a pay-per-view and not a lot of build, and then they're going to have Revolution and forget about that. So I just think that, with that said, I'm not happy that they're going to throw the Australia show under the bus. And I would also kind of say that if they don't do that, it will take a lot to make Revolution compelling, really. I also will say that, honestly, it gets very expensive when you go to all these shows, and I live in Connecticut. So when you go to a show like Revolution in Los Angeles, a lot of people don't know that it's a bad flight, really, because a lot of the flights from Los Angeles to New York, or Los Angeles to Connecticut, or Los Angeles to Boston, like, it's a morning flight. So honestly, you will, be here like 4 or 5 in the afternoon. I work the night shift, so then I'll just be like really pissed off and cranky, because then you're on a long flight, and then if there's a delay, then it's almost like, oh, well, I'm gonna get no rest or whatever, and then I'm gonna come into work with no sleep, really. So it's almost like being up, for over 24 hours. And I just don't want to do that. And then also, as somebody who likes to travel, Los Angeles is not a great place, because I don't have a car. You have to take Uber. It's like $50, $60 to get to anywhere, because Los Angeles is so spaced out. So it's just not going to be a good experience, really. So I'm actually going to go to Tennessee with my drone, and I'm going to do a bunch of travel videos, but I'm going to watch Revolution from a hotel room, and then I'm going to do my review of it, and I'm going to let you guys know if it's something where I regret not going to Los Angeles. But I also will say that another big thing, and I'll tell you guys, is that wrestling pay-per-views can become a very bad addiction, because it's like, in my head, I have a streak of going to all these shows, really, and I could say something like, it has to continue. So I could be like, okay, every month I'm going to be going to a AEW show. And if I'm like, okay, well, I'm not liking the quality, it's really dropping, so why should I be spending all this money and it going nowhere, really, So I really just have to think about my investments, shit is expensive, an AEW ticket, if you want to get like near ringside seats, that can run you $400 to $500. It's been like running me like $500. So, you take a flight, and most of my flight tickets really run about $300. And then, you have to pay for a hotel, and a hotel room, runs me about like, $300 as well, really. And then also on top of that, like traveling the city, food and all that stuff on my trip, it runs me, about like $300 as well. And, all that together is, roughly $1,100, $1,200. And on top of that, I'm taking time off of work, really, and reviewing professional wrestling or capturing some footage and putting it online, that's like a part-time job, really. So when I have my vacations, they don't really feel like vacations, they feel like work vacations. And if I feel like AEW is not making a good experience or a fun experience, why should I just sit at an arena and watch a program, be like, oh, well, this is going to suck, or, oh, well, I know the wrestlers don't care, or they're prioritizing something else, really. So why should I actually, why should I actually be putting money into that? Like, for example, with World's End, had I just, been a little bit wiser, I would have never gone, because it seemed like they were prioritizing all the wrestlers that keep their titles because of the Wrestle Dynasty, Wrestle Kingdom show. So I really feel there's a lot for AEW to work on, and I really think that, it's definitely, a little upsetting that they probably don't care about their quality as much as they used to. And I also feel, like people said about the Death Riders and other things, that there are a lot of good stories that they can tell. There's a lot of pivots, or there's a lot of enhancements of storylines that are lackluster, and there's a lot of big things that they can be doing, but they just don't care, or they're just not smart enough to listen to the right advice or research the right advice, So it's almost like saying, it really feels like a loser company, and why should I just be wasting all my resources? And like I said, there's a difference between like pro AEW and anti AEW. I think anything that I'm saying here is not to bash the company, it's to be constructive criticism. Improve your quality, make sure all your shows matter. Understand that the Death Riders and a lot of things that go on AEW have a bunch of logic holes, and a lot of it feels shoehorned. A lot of it feels like, they don't really care about crafting good stories or having stories that make sense or other things like that. And it seems like they're incorporating a lot of ideas of what wrestlers want to do. So yeah, it's just dropping quality of the pay-per-views that they're doing. So why would I kind of waste my resources? And if they have a mentality of not really caring, why should I be spending money on that? It's almost like spending money on a prostitute or something like that. It's not that they care about you. It's not that they enjoy having a good time or whatever. It's not that, if you finish in 5 minutes, they're going to still make you pay for the 30 minutes that you negotiated. So it's just not worth, it's a bad investment. So AEW has really dropped its quality. I need to step away from pay-per-views. I'd rather pay the $50 or the HBO Max or whatever they have right now. So I would rather, so as I said, that's just better for me. I think they've lost trust in me, and I also just don't want to have a pay-per-view addiction, because like I said, if I'm broke or in a few years my brother wants me to get my own place, Tony Khan is not going to be like, okay, you've gone to all these AEW shows, so you can go there for free because I've been to over 40, and I've been to a lot of like pay-per-views as well, really, so Tony doesn't care. It's the same way Vince would not care about anybody who goes to every one of his WrestleManias, so, if it's not making me happy, why continue doing it? But I will still review AEW. I will still watch AEW. I'll still watch the pay-per-views, or I may get a hotel room and watch the pay-per-view there because my brother's a noisy motherfucker, and I know that I cannot review and make notes or do anything when he's there because he's a noisy, inconsiderate motherfucker, really. So there is some money spent, really, but it wouldn't be spent on traveling super duper far or spending over $1,000, really, because I don't feel AEW deserves it, and it is a huge time investment. So they have to really have to prove to me that they deserve me to be compelled enough to spend the money to see anything in person.